Hello and welcome back to the channel where we take a look at some of the more off-meta options that are available. And I know what you may be thinking, Kylo Ren, he's not off-meta, is he? But in my defense, I was working on this before the Galactic Championships took place, I should say. And it was actually a Tarkentown version that really blew up at those championships. So I'm going to say we still qualify. So what is this deck trying to do? You may notice that it kind of looks like Gar Saxon having an identity crisis, and it does have a lot of similarities with that deck. But we are basically trying to get in a bit of damage as we go. Probably the threshold you're really looking for is 10 to 12 damage on their base by the time we get Kylo Ren out, and we have a few disruptive elements in place to limit the damage that the opponent is going to be able to do to us. And then Kylo Ren comes down and hits for at least 10, putting them in a bit of a checkmate position, ideally. So that is the general game plan. So let's get into the deck proper. So what does Kylo Ren himself do if you are somehow not aware at this point? So we start with the first the yellow base. The other ones don't really do anything for us. This is not a force deck either, so there's no point having a 20 HP base. On his leader side, his action is to discard a card from your hand. If you discarded an upgrade this way, draw a card. So it's a neutral action in terms of your hand size, essentially, and enables you to cycle through your deck whilst giving you your upgrades later on in your discard pile for future use. And it's future use because at a 7 deploy, so very late, and 5 stats and Sentinel, on the face of it, absolutely abysmal, but for when deployed is play any number of upgrades from your discard pile on this unit, one at a time, paying their costs. So the general idea is you end up using all of your resources at whatever point you deploy him and hitting for an absolute massive amount of damage, either finishing them off in one hit or putting them into a point where if they don't have an immediate answer for him, they will have to claim the initiative to hope that they then draw their immediate answer to him. Onto the ground units, and this is probably where we have the most Gar Saxon identity crisis going on here. So we've got a 3 of Aura Singh. She's hidden, so she can't be attacked immediately, so it makes it quite likely she's going to then be able to hit into base for next phase for at least 3 damage. Just a solid unit. And then we come into our shielded people. So we've got a Director Krennic. Basically, he's in here instead of Crafty Smuggler because we do have I think it's only one unit that has a when defeated. I know we've got two when defeated abilities, so we might get the discount, but he's mainly just here because he is a 2/2 shielded, so it's going to be a bit more sticky to get rid of, and just gets in with a little bit of damage as we go, which is what we're looking for. Same story with Secretive Sage. I don't think we have any force payoffs in this deck, so apart from one upgrade that we never use. So it's just the same purpose as Krennic, but it has the force. Shin Hati, so she is also hidden, a 4/2 shield, again very good, very sticky, to hopefully guarantee we're getting at least 4 damage in before they're able to deal with her. We've got Forlom, so we've gone for a full set of him. He's a 4/4 with ambush, so ideally he's coming in and taking something out, and hopefully having 1 HP left or so that he can then start hitting the base. We do also have Zuckus, so if we have Zuckus out, they both get a +1/+1 boost to each other, and they give each other's abilities to each other. So if you have Fallen out and then you play Zuckus, he gains ambush with Saboteur, so if they do have like, I mean, Village Protectors has pretty much fallen off the face of the earth, but let's say they did, then he punches through the shields and kills it on deploy with Ambush and Saboteur. So very tasty, and he's a 7/7. Speaking of Zuckus, if you have Zuckus out whilst you're deploying Kylo Ren, they are in very big trouble because Sentinels aren't going to save them. They're going to need some kind of removal, probably Super Laser Blast in all reality, and Kylo is frequently hitting for at least 10. Zuckus is going to be 6. That's 16 damage you've got. If you've managed to put Ascension Cable on Kylo, he has Saboteur as well. They're in big trouble. They really need to do a Super Laser Blast to be able to get out of that hole. Anakin Skywalker. So we do have 2 cards in this deck that are heroic. only 2 cards, but they are upgrades, so we can just ditch them and not worry about them. But he's a 6 cost, 5/7. When played, he has 2 when playeds. If there is a hero card in your discard pile, you may give a unit -3/-3, and the same for a villainy card. So, because they are 2 different when playeds, you can split the -3/-3 to 2 different units. This can be most useful if we're playing against a space heavy deck because we are quite light in space. But yeah, he just does a lot of shrinking. You can double it up on 1 unit to really shrink it down and get rid of it without taking any damage yourself. Overall, just a very good utility card. If we don't have a heroic card in our discard pile, it's still okay. It's still pretty decent effect to have. Fennec Shan, so she's a bit overlooked, I think, and I think the new Darth Vader unit has probably pushed her even further down the pecking order in most people's eyes. But Fennec is more action efficient because she has ambush straight away. With Darth Vader, you need, as in the new Darth Vader, that is, you need Sheen Flurry to be able to ambush. So that's 2 cards you need in your hand, which means you're 2 cards down in your hand as well. So Fennec in this deck, because we're discarding upgrades and using some events, it's very likely you have uh, at least 4 different costs in your discard pile. So her on attack is deal 1 damage to the defender if it's a unit for each different cost among cards in your discard pile. So she comes down, you've got 4 different costs. She does the on attack, 4 damage to them, and then another 4 damage. Guess what? That is going to kill most leaders in the game unless they have an upgrade. So that is partially her utility. She's also very effective against the likes of Chirrut because his force ability will not block the on attack, to my knowledge. And even if it did, well, okay, it's negating 2 damage, damage, add another 4. Chirrut is still dead. So Fennec is very useful in that sense, and I mainly use her as a leader slash big unit deleter, and sometimes she'll even stick around as well, which is really useful. Just gone for a 2 of her, but yeah, I think she works really well with Kylo as a leader. Onto the wild card. So this is a card that is generally not seen a whole lot of use, or in the context of a leader that we're looking at, and this one today is Mist Hunter, and this is mainly used in Cad Bane probably, if at all. But it's a 3/4, so standard stats for that point in the resource cost. On attack, if you played a Bounty Hunter or Pilot card this phase, you may draw a card. So basically, this is Forlom or Zuckuss. We do have Aura Sing, but we're probably not playing her after we've played the Mist Hunter. So the theory behind this is sound, but it rarely comes off. So this probably would get ditched. Hey, not every wild card is going to work out. But yeah, the theory behind it is sound, but it may have activated once in all the games that I've played. So yeah, I think the likes of 7th Fleet Defender might come in to give us even more of a Gar Saxon identity crisis. On to the rest of the space units, we've got Onyx Squadron Brute. So this is our final 2-cost turn 1 play. It's just so we've got a bit of healing available to us in the game. 2/3s, decent enough stats. Not much more to say. I guess with the other thing to say would be with Krennic, it can cost 1, which can be significant at times. And then come on to the Shuttle ST-149, the other one defeated that we have in the deck. We've only gone for 1. It was kind of basically, okay, I don't have a whole lot of forecast plays, let's just dump another one in. And there are a lot of shields running around in the game because of Secrets of Sage. So it comes in, it's shielded. When played and when defeated, you may take control of a token upgrade on a unit and attach it to a different eligible unit. So ideally, you'll be stealing one of the opponent's shields or experience tokens and attaching it to your own. The other thing that you can do, of course, is shield it first and then donate the shield elsewhere. So let's say, I don't know, we've used Shinhati to take out one of their units. We then play the shuttle the next turn and then donate the shield back to her. That's something that you can do. Corvus as our final space unit. Now this is one that is quite possibly for the chopping block as well. The theory behind it is good, but generally I've found I probably want to play something else at 5 resources. So it's a 4/5, okay, stats, but the most significant part that we're actually looking for is the restore 2. This is just to help us stay ahead of, well, to mitigate damage against us, because we don't want to get so far behind that we have to deploy Kylo earlier than we would like. And the when played is not relevant in this deck because we've got no pilot units. But yeah, it's just to add a bit of healing into the deck. Onto the events, all pretty standard stuff here, and they're all kind of blasts from the past. So no good to me dead, just delays the opponent getting in damage whilst we push in and chip away at their base. Power of the Dark Side, again, pretty standard. This can often be what we're doing on turn 2, whilst we have our shielded units out, or Aura Sing, so then we hit their base of 3, we're already ahead. Waylay, just for any, again, pseudo removal, just problematic units. Again, it delays them being able to push damage into us whilst we are pushing damage into them. And then Rival's Fall, just for any problematic leaders that we can't allow to stay on the field, especially if they've slapped a lightsaber on them, for example, and also pilot decks. If the likes of Luke Skywalker comes out, then yeah, we desperately need Rival's Fall to be able to deal with him. Although, because of the number of shielded units that we have, his at least his effect when deployed is only going to take a shield off, hopefully. Now, onto the upgrades, and we've got quite a mixture here. So, Snapshot Reflexes is the most important enabler for Kylo, because on deploy you are guaranteed to be able to hit with him for only one resource. So it's a 1/1 in terms of stats, but when playing attack with the attached unit. So leaders time ready, you play your upgrades immediately when Kylo deploys, therefore he hits at least 6. Obviously you can hit a lot more than that, but yes. Ascension Cable, so we've only gone for 2 of those because it is a utility piece and we only need 1. If we're going to have any in our discard pile, we don't need more than 1. What does it do? So the attached unit gains Saboteur. So this means that we're taking away potential answer for them. They might have deployed a Sentinel in preparation for Kylo. Not many people use Ascension Cable, so I have had it where people haven't actually realised that they deployed a Sentinel, but it's going to do nothing for them. So the other good thing about this as well is that it does give Kylo a good health boost. +3 is not something to be sniffed at on a 2-cost upgrade. So if your opponent is going to be relying on the likes of Force Throw or Force Lightning to take Kylo out, then that +3 could be quite significant. And then we've got a full set of Electro Staffs. This is our, well, one of our ones that are just going to give us a good amount of damage boost. The effect of when attached unit is defending, the attacker gets -1 damage to them, or damage into Kylo. Is not always going to be relevant, but Kylo does have Sentinel, so if they are going to have to clear him out by attacking into him, then this could mean he survives 1 or 2 more attacks than he otherwise would. And if you stack 3 on him, then he's taking 3 less damage per individual attack. So yeah, if you're needing him to be a defensive option, then the Electro Staff does put in some work. +2/+2, which is on rate for those that resource cost. Constructed Lightsaber, so this is the main damage boost that Kylo gets from the upgrades. It's +2/+3 base, but because Kylo is a villainy unit, he gains raid 2. So if we ignore all the other upgrades we have and just slap 2 of the constructed lightsabers on him and the snapshot reflexes, he is doing 14 damage straight away. And if you think about the 28 HP base, so that's 50% of their HP in one hit. Even if you've done no damage to them beforehand, you have lethal straight away. So if they can't do anything, they're unstuffed. Shadowed Intention. So this is an upgrade that has seen, I'd say, precisely 0 use until now. I have only gone for 1 of them because, again, it's a bit like Ascension Cable. We only need 1. Ascension Cable is more important, though. So what does this do? The attached unit gains. This unit can't be captured, defeated, or returned to its owner's hand by enemy card abilities. Now, because Kylo's leader, the captured and returned to hand doesn't matter, but it's the defeated part that matters. So if you're playing against a control deck, this card can quite potentially single-handedly win you the game because they are not going to be able to do anything other than exhausting him. what I would say is if you are playing against a control deck and you do draw this early, if you're able to, keep it in your hand for a very long time so they don't know that you've got it. And then, because it's going to make it very hard for them to plan, because they're probably going to be holding onto a Rival's Fall and Super Laser Blast, etc., meaning they are perhaps not taking out your units early on, and then you reveal, you discard the Shadowed Intentions. You're like, ah, crap, I've held on to these cards for so long because I needed it to kill Kylo, and now I will not be able to kill Kylo. So, just a little bit of a tip into how to play this control deck. Heirloom Lightsaber. So this is the only heroism card that we got here to activate Anakin. Now, it wasn't until after I played and I think lost the game because I was not able to put a third upgrade on Kylo. It's because it cost one too many. I realised that Ahsoka's Padawan lightsaber is a one-cost heroism upgrade, which could be significant because this costs 4 because of the aspect penalty. Ahsoka's lightsaber would only cost 3. So, as I say, we don't have a ton of upgrades in this deck compared to other Kylo decks. So you might only have 3 upgrades in your deck at any one time, your discard pile at any one time. And if it's one of the heroism upgrades, then being one resource less could actually be quite significant. So at the moment, if we had an heirloom constructed and snapshot in the discard at Kylo deploy, or when we're wanting to deploy him, well, we're actually only going to be able to play either the heirloom and that. Yeah, you're only going to be able to play 2 of the 3 instead of all 3 of them if we had Ahsoka's lightsaber. So that would be one swap that I do. It does have an effect if the attached unit is a Force unit, it gains Restore 1. It's not particularly relevant. If it was like Restore 2 or 3, then maybe we'll have another look at it, but Restore 1 is not significant enough. So I would definitely swap it out for Ahsoka's lightsaber. So the weaknesses at the moment are the Aggrieved Parliamentarian. Now, I don't think anyone is ever going to have this in the main deck. It's always going to be a sideboard card. And I've not played against anyone that has used this against me thus far. So I'm not entirely sure how we would play around it or against it. It probably needs to happen to me for me to really think about it. But my first thoughts are Regional Governor. You can name it maybe around 6 resources because that's probably around the time they're going to think about playing it. Depends how many upgrades you have in your discard pile at any one point as well. If you've only got 1 or 2, they're probably going to hold on to him. I guess the other thing to do would be to just play upgrades on our units and pushing damage earlier on so that we've already gotten value out of our upgrades before they're in the discard pile. So, yeah, so until it happens to me, maybe I'll have more thoughts when it does. Chewbacca. So probably an auto lose if this happens. So this is something definitely to look into because my events are, well, I've got 6 between Waylay and Power of the Dark Side, and Chewbacca as a unit or a pilot is immune to them. So the no good to me is basically the main delay that I have on it, and I've got Sentinels in space here. So yeah, this definitely needs a bit of thought into. There is of course no glory, only results. Maybe that would come in for Corvus, but yeah, at the moment he would brick quite a bit of our deck. Supreme Leader Snoke is another one that I found the other day. The game did go on a bit too long for me, and Snoke came down and was like, a lot of my units have 2 health, and it means they're completely useless. We also don't have a ton of units with a lot of power, so what I would say, Fennec is probably the answer to Snoke as the deck stands at the moment, but we possibly need 1 or 2 more answers or units with higher health pools. Onto some of the other options. So I mentioned Corvus is in here for the healing. Well, maybe Moisture Farmer is another option. I've always been quite big on this card, and in my experience, it is like a Sentinel as well because your opponent will decide to deal with this. It's got 4 HP, so it's possibly surviving 2 attacks. That's damage that's not going onto your base. And if they are damaging your base, perhaps because they're in space, then the Restore 2, it just stacks and stacks and stacks. And you know what? Shove an Electro Staff on it as well and start doing damage as well. Why not? If they deal it out, then the Electro Staff is in your discard pile anyway for future use. Regional Governor, I've already mentioned, so this could be for the agreed parliamentarian. Could be if you've not got your shadow detentions in the discard pile, then name Super Laser Blast, Rivals Fall, all that kind of stuff. I was thinking about the Vader unit as well, in, but if you do have shadowed intentions on Kylo, then Darth Vader's effect isn't actually going to kill him. So, and your opponent, I wouldn't be surprised if they miss that. Then they'll put a shield on Kylo, and there he will take no damage. So yeah, Outer Rim Outlaws. So to again go into the Gar Saxon Identity Crisis, it's another 3/3 with a shield. This could be instead of Mist Hunter as well, but I think I would probably be more inclined to swap Mist Hunter for 7th Fleet Defender because it gives us another space presence and lane dodging the potential. Of course, the 7th Fleet Defender is also a 2 health unit, so Snoke obliterates him as well. But yeah, there's refinement to be done with this deck, but my win rate with it is actually a bit nuts as it stands already. So Snoke, I wouldn't be against having Snoke in the sideboard for when we need to be a bit more controlling. Likewise with Avenger, this would probably be in the sideboard as well. The one played on attack, just deleting their units as you go, and then you probably deploy Kylo at 10 resources and smacking they deploy 1 unit potentially. It's like, well, it's dead. Sorry. So yeah, I can see potential there. On to upgrades and events that would be other options. So I've already mentioned the lightsaber, Ahsoka's lightsaber, and the reasons for that is only a +2/+0 in terms of stats, but it's 1 cost, so whatever. But if you've got snapshot on your resources, then the +2 is going to be quite significant potentially. Hot shot, so just to give us an easy resource decision and be able to push in damage with our ground units a bit earlier. This would be a nice option. It's not in the deck currently. If you discard it, it is going to cost 3 if you're going to put it on Kylo, because it will be out of aspect as it is a red card officially. So even though it's only ever used in yellow decks. Jetpack. So this is something I realized the other day when Kylo was taken out by Force Lightning. Yes, Kylo would have got an attack, but if I'm hoping he'll be able to get in a second attack, then the jetpack will provide him a shield, which means they're going to need to do something else to get rid of that shield before they Force Lightning him, which might mean they're having to pay resources, which means Force Lightning then can't hit him in 1 hit. It does have a smuggle option as well for 4, which is quite a lot, I would say. I probably wouldn't do that outside of the Lando leader, set 2. But yeah, I think the jetpack is something I would want to be working into the deck as well, possibly to replace an electro staff and maybe a unit as well. But yeah, there's some thinking to do around that. Change of heart. This would be perhaps if they have deployed a Snoke, then we can take it the next turn and they need to deal with it. If we've not deployed Kylo yet as well, then that's going to be 11 plus a bit of damage going into way past. So that's my thinking behind that. Or if they played an Avenger, then likewise, they need to deal with that. And it's their own unit. Evacuate. So the theory behind this is just clearing things out and resetting everything before we get Kylo onto the field of play. This could be very useful if you have also played a decent number of upgrades on your units, because your upgrades will then go straight into the discard pile for you to use on Kylo, potentially the next phase if you've used Evacuate at 6 resources. And then it's kind of the same train of thought for Super Laser Blast, same effect pretty much, except with the units as well. So things like Chewbacca will be immune to this still. And it will also mean that your units die, but it's the same train of thought between these two. I would probably favour Super Laser Blast slightly because I'm not always deploying Kylo at 7 resources. So yeah, that is the deck. As I say, it's my win rate with it is actually a bit nuts at the moment, and I think there is room for improvement and refinement, primarily to do with the Corvus. I'm really not convinced by that, and the Mist Hunter. I think that gives us 4 cards to play with, This deck is actually 52 cards in total, but because of the discard and effective filtering that we've got going on, I think you can get away with that. Um, but yeah, and then the Chewbacca problem and the Grieve Parliamentarian problem and Snoke problem is something to consider as well. So the composition of the deck might need a bit of tweaking, but as I say, at the moment, it's been doing extremely well. So let me know what you think. And I say this with a lot of my decks. This is another PQ option. I do have a very early PQ in the set, and this is probably the earliest because there's only a bit of tweaking to do, and then the PQ towards the end of the set is what I'll really be trying to choose something for, probably not this. But yeah, been having a lot of fun with it, and not a lot of people are able to deal with it or know what to do. The Talking Town version is probably more disruptive and maybe it has a higher ceiling, but I still much prefer this version. So it just fits my style a bit more. So I know the Tarkin Town came second, but yeah, I look at it, I'm like, no, it's not for me. So yeah. Anyway, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.